The MegaMan series has always been tough for newcomers to dive into. It's a series based on challenge, skill, and memorizing stages and patterns. The original series was restrained by the technical limitations of the time, so they look more cartoony and kid-friendly. The Super Nintendo's Mega Man X series was a sequel intended to carry the torch and bring the Blue Bomber into the 16-bit era with a new look, new moves, and a new, more mature storyline. In 2005, Capcom announced a pair of simultaneous releases for Sony's PlayStation Portable handheld console. Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Maverick Hunter X were remakes of the first games in the Mega Man and Mega Man X series that utilized the 3D capabilities of the PlayStation Portable to render new ways to experience these gems of gaming. Both were remade with the idea to be accessible to newcomers, and plans were in the works for sequels to both games based on Mega Man 2 and Mega Man X2. Unfortunately, sluggish sales would lead to both sequels being cancelled. Today we have the Mega Man and Mega Man X Legacy collections to give us our fill, but these titles were more than just ports. There were new features, new bosses. They were practically their own games worthy of their own discussion. That's why today we're going to be taking a look at Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. It's said that when designing Mega Man, Keiji Inafune wanted to use a super deformed style for the characters. Big heads on little bodies for a funny, cute look. The problem was that the technology of the time made it difficult to portray this style, so a compromise was made. The characters were still cute, but the proportions weren't as exaggerated as originally intended. Inafune would get his chance to try his chibi designs when Capcom announced Mega Man Powered Up in 2005, a complete remake of the original Mega Man, updated for Sony's new PSP handheld console. Gaming had changed a lot between the 1980s and the mid-2000s. Before, game design was influenced by arcade trends. Challenge and difficulty were added to games of the time to hide the fact that these games theoretically could be beaten within the span of a few hours. The original Mega Man games came from an era where rental services like Blockbuster made it easy for someone to spend $5 instead of $50 on a game for the week. If a game could be beat in an afternoon, then there was no reason for the gamer to buy the game. This was also helped by the lack of save features in these early games. In the mid-2000s, however, these tricks were irrelevant. Game development had reached a point where games had enough content. There was no longer a need to pad a game with challenge to keep them from beating it in a single setting. With this in mind, Capcom sought to rework the original Mega Man series for the next generation of kids who hadn't grown up with the originals. Now there are multiple difficulties to cater to different kinds of players. The premise, characters, levels, music, almost everything in the game are based on the original Mega Man, but now everything is expanded upon. Characters pop out in 3D, and the levels follow the same designs, but now the worlds feel more alive. The story is played out through character dialogue and little cutscenes. This game would go on to influence the story and characters in the Archie tie-in comics. 2 new characters were created specifically for this game, each with their own unique level. Time Man and Oil Man bring the game's original 6 Robot Masters up to 8, in line with the rest of the series. Oil Man's design would cause controversy as it closely resembles the blackface stereotype, with his black skin and big red lips. For some background, Japanese artists are influenced by those who came before them. A lot of the original manga artists learned from American cartoonists. Blackface portrayals were prominent in American cartoons and comics, which were imported to Japan after World War II. The average person in Japan doesn't have any context for the history of blackface in America, which doesn't excuse the depictions, but because of this cultural misunderstanding, Oilman's skin was turned dark blue and his lips were colored yellow in the American version of Mega Man Powered Up. My favorite addition to this game is the ability to play as the boss characters you defeat. Each boss has their trusty weapon as their base weapon, and now the empty hole they left in their stage has been filled by a rogue Mega Man who's looking for trouble. There are other playable characters, but I won't spoil them for you. I'm disappointed that we never got to see any sequels to Powered Up. It seemed like the perfect formula for Mega Man. Remake 1 through 6 in this style, maybe 7 and 8, then they could have done 9 and 10 too, and every time I see a new trailer for 11, I just think of it as a sequel to Powered Up, but with a more streamlined design. Don't get me started on Mighty No. 9, the unfortunate spiritual successor to the Mega Man series. Mega Man Powered Up is one of the best PSP games, and possibly one of the best Mega Man games. It's unfortunate that it came out too early in the PSP's lifespan to really take off. Maybe if Capcom had ported the game to the PS2 or GameCube, it would have fared better. Maverick Hunter X, the companion title to Mega Man Powered Up, is a remake of the 1993 Super Nintendo classic Mega Man X. Unlike Powered Up, which completely redesigned the classic Mega Man, Maverick Hunter X stays relatively true to the original design and style of the Mega Man X franchise. It features animated cutscenes similar to those used in Mega Man X3 and X4, and one could argue that the animation and voice acting are noticeably better this time around. While Powered Up was designed to be accessible for anyone, Maverick Hunter X is designed to be a more mature challenge. There's no easy mode this time, only normal and hard. The first Mega Man X was never as challenging as later games in the series, but it wasn't a walk in the park. Maverick Hunter X isn't easier, but it does feel a little tighter to control. The Mega Man series has never been strong on plot, but the Mega Man X sub-series does have a surprisingly strong lore. This has only ever been casually hinted at, with little exposition besides a few cutscenes or slideshows. Maverick Hunter X delivers a decent story in the form of an animated opening cutscene, as well as character dialogue between stages. Each boss battle opens with a back and forth between X and the boss in question, where they explain their perspective before jumping into the action. Once you beat the game, you unlock what's probably the coolest bonus a video game can have, a 25-minute animated film. The Day of Sigma is a self-contained animated special that ties in with the game. The special is a prequel that ends where the game begins, and it tells the story of Sigma and the other Reploids going Maverick. This approach to video game storytelling works surprisingly well because it doesn't interfere with the gameplay. Most story-driven games feel bloated with unending cutscenes. Other games don't feel fleshed out enough when they don't include any cutscenes. Maverick Hunter X, including an anime OVA, is similar to 2003's Dot Hack series from Bandai, which also came with a 4-part animated series. 2010's Dragon Ball Raging Blast, also from Namco Bandai, similarly featured a 20-minute special called The Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans. Fans of the Mega Man X series have noted some inconsistencies with Maverick Hunter X and the Day of Sigma compared to the rest of the franchise. These story inconsistencies wouldn't matter if Capcom had gone through with their plan to reboot the X series. Had they continued the groundwork started by Maverick Hunter X, future games would fill in the blanks and retell the original stories in new and exciting ways. As far as fan speculation goes, we can draw all of Mega Man's problems in the late 2000s, early 2010s right here. Mega Man Powered Up and Mega Man Maverick Hunter X were great games, but for one reason or another, neither title was very successful at the time of release. What's worse is, Maverick Hunter X was available digitally on the PlayStation Network store when the PlayStation Vita debuted, but MegaMan Powered Up couldn't get the same treatment due to technical issues. Both games are great, and it's a shame that they're lost to time, trapped forever on a long-forgotten handheld. I have nothing against the Mega Man Legacy collections, but I miss the days when developers attempted to remake their classic games for later generations. While there's no arguing against the value of preserving original games and making them available to be played as originally intended, I think the world would benefit from more modernized remakes that take advantage of today's technology to do things they could never originally do. I hope one day Capcom releases both Mega Man PSP games, possibly alongside other mid-2000s curiosities like Mega Man X Command Mission and Mega Man Network Transmission. There were enough oddball Mega Man spin-offs to fill a few more legacy collections, I think.